sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Hey everyone, turn on the mic. Hey, hey, welcome to SCOARTGLASS, where I hope to help you discover the beauty of stained glass, learn tips, tricks, and techniques so that you can create your own stained glass artwork. And I'm really excited about tonight. This is our first artist spotlight interview, and I'm really excited about our guest tonight. He's been inspirational to me. I've been following him for a while. And but before we get started, just a couple things. If at any time you want to support the channel, be sure to check out the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. And it's there, and you'll be able to click on that link and go to the Buy Me a Coffee and support the channel in that fashion. Now, also, if you're enjoying the content, ensure to hit that like button below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, ensure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'd love to have you here. That will get you notifications to when I go live. I do lives on every Friday at 8 p.m. To do just regular stained glass artwork, current projects that I'm working on. And then also I'll be doing periodic artist spotlight interviews like tonight. With various artists, and I'm trying to do this with artists throughout the world. So I've got a couple more getting lined up from across the pond in Europe. So hopefully be sure to subscribe so you get notifications when that's going to happen. And lastly, SCOARTGLASS does have merchandise available, so you can check out these great shirts. They're available at SCOARTGLASS.com. This is also another way that you can help the channel out and support us. This is the way we can continue bringing you videos, doing stained glass artwork, and keep things going. So with that, I'm going to bring on our guest. Please help me welcome Sarakit.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, how you doing, Sarakit? Welcome to the channel.
What's up, Steve?
And Sarakit, can just briefly kind of introduce yourself and who you are?
Yeah, so I basically got, well, I guess I don't know how far we're going back. I'm from Thailand, born and raised until I was about 9 years old. And then I came over to the States. We lived in California. I grew up in Southern California and been there the whole time. I've recently found myself, I guess not recently, but it's been about 13, 14 years here in the Bay Area. So that's where I'm at right now. And I guess getting started with stained glass, I just found this by chance and got really hooked on it and decided this is what I wanted to attempt and try out for myself. And it just picked up from there. Started the YouTube channel. Steve reached out, and this is where we're at right now. Yes.
Oh, great. Well, what we'll do tonight is we're going to have a quick discussion on things to think about when starting in stained glass. And if at any time anybody has some questions, you can put those in the chat. We'll try and keep an eye on the chat and answer those questions the best we can. And then after we have that little discussion, and we'll actually get into the spotlight interview to get to know Sarakit just a little bit more and the things he does around stained glass and what parts and steps that he likes the most, and just finding a little bit more about Sarakit. So starting off, things to think about when starting to stained glass. So for me, when I think about stained glass, and just kind of starting out is, don't have to buy everything at first, but it's always tempting, because you want to have everything and the right tools. But I guess, really when you think about it, you want to make sure that it is going to be a good fit for you, and it's something that you are going to like, because at times you can get a little frustrated sometimes doing stained glass. So what about you? What do you think, things that people should think about when they're starting out in stained glass?
I think the same thing. Start out buying, don't spend too much on that expensive equipment just yet, because you're not really sure how to use it or how to understand the equipment or the tools. Even like the glass cutter itself, like getting a cheap glass cutter to start out with and just holding that in your hand, going through the glass and figuring out like the pressure and what you need to do with it before jumping into a higher end one. Like, saving that money, I think it helps out, because everything adds up. You end up just buying all kinds of things, and you'll figure out what works for you or not. So I agree with Steve about like starting out with just limiting the equipment, things that you need to start out with. And I'm pretty sure you'll find yourself enjoying it. I did, and so I quickly upgraded, but also different items at a time as well. I didn't, buy them all together at once. You just find like, okay, I need a new glass cutter. I think it's time to get a better one, and then we need a grinder and things like that. So they all just kind of follow as you move forward.
Yeah, cool. So
Right.
let's talk a little bit about, when you're starting out and patterns. That's always, for me, when I'm starting out, that was a little challenging. I know there's all sorts of patterns out there online that you get, but what size pattern do you think is good to start out with, in your opinion? How many pieces?
Oh, what size? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, minimal piece that you start out, really not give up, but starting out with like a couple pieces, 2, 3, like for myself, like a feather that you would have 2 or 3 pieces, that would probably be a good start. And you'll understand, like, again, those cuts and what you have to do to get through those steps, putting everything together, and it's going to be pretty good. Keep it small.
Yeah. Well, don't you have a free feather pattern for beginners out on your website?
Yeah, I do. And for some reason, when I drew that up, I was drawing them into different pieces, and I just made it 3 of them, and one is a 3-piece pattern and a 4-piece pattern, a 5-piece pattern. So I think those are really good starting points. Just keep them real small like that. But I do have the patterns on my website, so you can go ahead and download that as well. It's on there.
Yeah. So if many of you don't know, Sarakit's actually been on YouTube for about how long you been on YouTube again?
I believe the actual date is August 2018. We're coming up to like 3 years pretty soon. So it feels like a long time, but also it moved pretty fast to get to this point here. So yeah, almost about 3 years now.
Wow, that's a long time. I think I've been following you a little over 2 years now on YouTube.
Okay.
So it was before you got up to that whole monetization level that you were still under, and now you've just blown up basically.
Yeah, it was really hard to. I mean, it's still getting subscribers and everything. At first, it was all about, oh, how can I get more people, and those numbers don't move. You're sitting at like less than 100. And you're just looking at it like, man, I don't know enough people to even get to 100. And then 1,000 comes along, and things kind of move. I don't know how it works, but it takes time. Definitely.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys have to check out his channel. It's, you know, he's got a lot of good content on there. He's a great artist and everything. And I've really enjoyed his content as well. He was one of the ones that I kind of turned to when I was first starting out. Cause I mean, you know, I personally am self-taught and learned off of YouTube, and like many of others, you know, they do that as well. So, it's a good channel to go to, and don't be scared to look at other, you know, other channels and so forth like that, because you're always going to pick up something from somebody. I think just as you watch different content and find somebody that just kind of gels with you pretty well. And you kind of came and kind of gelled with me pretty good. So I've always enjoyed your content.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So now, you know, now we're getting patterns, and, you know, you're starting out, you're getting patterns, you know, wherever you're getting them from. And then, so what's your suggestion when people are starting out, when they're first starting to learn to cut glass?
Cutting the glass itself.
Yes.
Man, that's the, it feels so weird to me doing that at first. I remember having that Fletcher cutter, like the cheaper tool, and trying to figure out like what is this thing gonna do to the glass, and pushing down on it, afraid like, hey, this is gonna crack it and bust in my eyes, like in my hands and everything. So understanding the pressure could be pretty difficult. I think that everybody will tell you it only takes practice, and you're just gonna have to go for it. You're definitely not going to make the best cut on the first try, and I still don't really know what the best pressure is. It just, you know, every glass, you'll find that like the darker colored glass will all, like, I think, oh, I'm sorry, the lighter colored glass seems a little bit harder, and then like different textures will hit you. You'll come up to a glass that has like the big wavy patterns or something like that, textures, and it'll just get you, and things won't go right. But keep it consistent, go from one end to the other, don't stop along the way, and just cruise along and just go for it. Keep that pressure steady and pretty much hope for the best. And if it doesn't happen, you know, it's just glass, you do it again. Hopefully it's better next time. It's all part of the fun, discovery, and, you know, figuring things out along the way.
Ah, cool.
I think that's,
well, let's, I want to check into the chat and kind of see, oh, we've got, Cindy Stewart. That's actually a good friend of mine, a colleague I work with, but she is actually from California as well. Sarakit.
hello.
So it's awesome. Thanks for joining. And then also we've got Miss Michelle Lawrence from LBC Branding. She's a great, if you guys want advice on branding, and she's got some awesome content on her channel as well. I've gone to her for some advice on my branding, and I'm working through it. So it's a great advice by her. Also, we got Mr. Andrew Chung in the house telling me my mic is muted. Thank you. I appreciate that at the beginning there. And then, it looks like Andrew's got a question as well. Let's take a look at that question here. So for both of you, what is your advice to push through the slow start on your streaming/posting career? I think he's talking about our slow start in YouTube, maybe, you know, just starting out and the slowness of it. I'll let you go ahead and go first.
So for me, I knew that you had to keep continuing on. It is going to be painful just starting out and hoping for those subscribers, those viewers, people that would come along. And also, you got to remember that you got to have fun with it too. That's probably the most important thing. Is if you're not having fun with it, it's going to be even worse for you, because you're just getting there, say, only for the money or something. and things will just not work out at first ever. You know, so it can't be about the money, and you gotta love what you're doing, at least enough to continue and make that next video. I mean, I feel weird telling these advices, but somebody who's starting out, if you're not at 100 yet, you still keep pushing and don't worry too much about what other people are thinking and what other people are doing. You just do it for yourself, for the people that you're putting it out there, for your channel, to give them a lot of good information, education, things that you know are going to help other people.
Oh, it looks like we've lost you just a little bit there. Well, I'll go ahead and there we go. Are you there? Okay. I start to see you there now. So, okay.
Here.
Yeah. So, I guess for me, I'm actually approaching 1 year as of Monday. It will be my 1 year anniversary on YouTube.
Nice.
I'm not there yet. I'm pushing through it. I'm loading content, and I'm really enjoying it. And like you said, I'm enjoying what I do. And it's not so, it's not about the money. It's really about just sharing the content and sharing what I've learned. Because I know when I first started out, what I decided to actually start my channel was I had been thinking about starting one for a while, but procrastination, scared to start and so forth like that. And I had been looking at videos on starting a channel and different things. And then once I decided to, was actually on the night before Father's Day, which is this weekend. It was the Saturday night before Father's Day. I was watching Sean Cannell.
Okay.
And one of the things he stated was kick procrastination to the curb and press record. And that's a synopsis. I think it was something else that he said, in that. But I'm like, okay. So I woke up Father's Day morning and went downstairs before anybody got up and made my first video that morning. And then I posted it on that Monday. And that was the start of my channel.
That's how it works. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice.
So, but yeah, to push through, I continue to just load, make content, and hopefully, I wasn't that good at it at first. I mean, I'm still learning every single time I'm, making a video, or now I'm starting to live stream, and this is only like my third live stream that I'm doing. So it's, I'm always learning, and I'm thirsty to learn for that. Well, I thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. But also, to push through is one of the things that I did to kind of really help me out and keep me kind of motivated is, I don't know if you heard of Veda, video every day in April. And they also have a video.
Wow.
Yeah. And they also have vlogging every day in August. And then there's also what they call Vlogmas as well during Christmas time. But this past April, I decided to challenge myself, and I did the Veda challenge, and I posted every day in April. And
that's awesome.
So it was so it was really great, and I enjoyed it, and that really kind of solidified my love for doing this, and and excitement for doing it. So I'll continue to do it, so it's just fun. So I'll do it all around stained glass and different ways to do stained glass, and bringing, other glass artists on and so forth like that. So I'm really, really happy with it and love it. So hope that answers your question, how we kind of, both of us kind of perspective on how we push through different things. So now to kind of get back to a little bit on the glass cutting, just my quick advice on glass cutting is start out on just plain, glass that you use for like picture frame glass or whatever to practice cutting. That kind of helps you get used to how much pressure you have to put on the glass when you're actually cutting, and learning how to do the different breaks and so forth like that. That way you don't waste your precious stained glass.
Yeah, excellent tip right there. Definitely don't buy the glass yet that you love. First thing you do is like, man, I'm going to buy this glass and this is going to be my first cut. And that's pretty much what I did. I went out to the glass store and I bought all this nice glass, and it was like, okay, and now what do I do with this? And I wasted a lot of it. Start off with like the freebies, the mirrors that you can pick up from Craigslist or picture frame glass is definitely a good one.
Yeah. So and then one thing I learned too is it helps you learn how to transfer your pattern to your glass if you decide not to do like the glue paper method. If you just want to draw your glass on, kind of teaches you how to draw it on and then how to actually cut on the inside of that line, to make sure it's going to fit into your pattern and so forth like that. So that's awesome.
Right. You're right. Yeah. The gauging of where to cut exactly so they fit and everything. So that gives you a lot of practice too.
Yep. All right. Well, our next step in stained glass is after that is you broke it, and now you're ready to grind it, to make sure you don't have those sharp pieces that I tell you what, I used a lot of Band-Aids starting out. A lot of Band-Aids, little nicks here and there, and so forth like that. One thing, if you have to invest in those little grids. I tell you what, when you're cutting glass, those shards fall down on that table. And if you don't have those grids, then you stick your hand down there and those jab right into your side of your hand.
Yeah, you know what? That's got to be my next investment. I don't have it still. I know I need it. It's very important. I probably should invest in one of those too.
Yeah, I was like, I kept getting those nicks in there because, I'm a little clumsy at times. So, not paying attention, and it'll just, scratch me right there. And then next thing you know, you're like, hey, where did that little piece of blood come from?
Well, you're right. You don't feel it, and you start bleeding. But I wouldn't say I wouldn't want to scare people that think like, oh man, you're just gonna bleed all the time.
Oh, no. It's just little scratches. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't want to scare anybody. It's just little bitty scratches that kind of happen. So, but for grinding, what do you recommend when people starting out grinding? What's kind of
the grinding step? The grinding step is another important one. Sometimes you get lucky and you break that glass and it's perfect. You don't touch it and you just move on. That's rare. I mean, if you do straight cuts, I could say that yes, you can get away with that. Things that I kind of point out on my side of things is like doing like honeycombs, where that's a very easy project. Those are all straight cuts and you might not even need to grind the glass, but of course they won't break as nicely and then things will happen. And so the easiest thing to do to file that is to get a Carburetor Stone. And this is something that I didn't even know of until I thought I had to get a grinder the whole time when I was starting out. And so the Carburetor Stone is a file that you'll file glass. And so that could get rid of those sharp points and those sharp edges. It won't grind the glass is what like most people need to know. So if you have to do more than just fix like those minor sharpness on the glass, then you will have to get that glass grinder, which is pretty cool. To me, it's like once you get that grinder, it changes everything that you do with stained glass. You basically decided that you're going to make this for real, and you're just going to get into this craft and make some badass projects. And that's what it is. If you don't get that glass grinder, you're going to be making a couple of projects. You're playing around with it. You're testing it out. You make a few, and they come out great, you know. But then you get that grinder. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make some cool ass stuff right now.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle in there, she's a nurse, so us talking about getting cuts and everything, making her cringe right now. That nurse probably in there wants to fix us up.
Yeah.
And make sure we're not doing all that. Thanks, Michelle, for that comment. So
honestly, for me,
the grinding, yeah. So I'd heard about carborundum stones as well, and but yeah, if your cuts aren't right on the money and pretty much close to where your line is, that's what the carborundum stone's for. Is just really just finding down and getting those sharp edges off. But yeah, if you have if you make a mistake and cut on the opposite side of the line, not on the inside but on the outside of the line, you have a little more than probably if you have more than like 1/8 of an inch or even smaller than that, you're going to need a grinder. I found that out quickly, and because I was actually watching another video when I was first starting out and seeing somebody use a carborundum stone, and they had mentioned that they had said, if your cuts aren't right on, then you're probably going to want to just straight off go with the grinder. And that's what I ended up doing. I went straight with a grinder because I knew I wasn't going to get nowhere near great cuts right off the get-go. And I'll be doing a lot of grinding. So
yeah. You can't just sit there with the stone and think that it's going to shave that off. It's not going to. You'll be there for days. Yeah.
Well, after grinding, we got all those edges smooth and everything. And, now we got into the foiling. So now at this point, you could actually use two different methods. You can use what they call Tiffany method, which is the foiling, or you could actually use a leaded method. And, which I use Tiffany method right now. And I know you actually use both methods. Why don't you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think for beginners, I would recommend doing the Tiffany, the copper foiling method. That's going to be way easier to get started with, and there's nothing tricky about it. There's this tape. It's a foil. I think I even thought I had it here somewhere, but you wrap the edges of the tape or the glass, and it's very easy, just like taping anything. So if you do that, you can move on to the next step. And so that's the copper foiling method. But recently I got into the lead, doing the leaded work. That's a whole different game. I took a class for that. I don't think you don't have to take a class for it, but you'll learn a lot of things doing that lead method. And it's a new thing I'm discovering right now. That's why I'm learning more about it. I'm liking it because it's new to me. But definitely, if you're starting out, I would say stick with the copper foiling, understand all the processes before jumping into the leaded work. It's just you'll produce more quality products right away with the copper foiling, I believe, before you get into the leaded work and the preciseness of things. So that's how I feel about maybe both of that.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, you've perked my interest watching you go through your training class and kind of following you along through that video series that you did. Kind of perked my interest about leaded glass.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it involves a lot more tools, but it feels very it feels like very primal. I don't know what it is, but you've got like the hammer and nails, and you're working in a different it feels like a different environment. It feels like the delicacy of copper foiling is what that is like, and you're sitting there carefully wrapping that tape. But when you get into the leaded stuff, you have to cut, use that lead knife to cut the lead. Things get a little bit rough. And so, yeah, I enjoy that right now. So you should try it out. It's a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go back and watch your videos some more, and, you know, what you was showing on cutting and you know, and everything. So, and hey, I'm just going to give it a whirl and see where it takes me.
Yeah.
We do have another question. So Cindy was asking, what is the difference and how is one better than the other? So I'll actually let you take that one because you do both of them. So I'll let you go at that one.
Okay. So the difference between the copper foiling and the leaded work, right? So the difference is the way that everything comes together into your project and the way that it's going to look afterwards. The copper foiling Tiffany method, you can get down to the very small pieces of glass. So that's hence the Tiffany lamps and everything, where it's like hundreds of pieces that go into the lamp work. And things are lighter because there's not that much weight, like the lead weight around the glass pieces. So if you're looking at the copper foil, you're cutting those pieces, you piece them together, and you can finish that project. Like, think of like the feather or the honeycomb, a small ornament thing that you're going to hang by the window. It's very light, and you don't have to have a border. The copper foil is the border. It becomes the border itself. And so you basically put those pieces together any way you want to, and you could just end it like that. The leaded work, you're adding lead to each of those pieces. The more pieces, the heavier the things get. And then finally, to border everything up, you actually, if it gets really heavy, you would like to add like a frame, a sturdy wooden frame, or you can do like a zinc frame. That's what I've learned so far. So everything adds up, it becomes really heavy, and you're now thinking of more like those church windows and doors and whatever bigger projects that most people tend to use the leaded work for. You can mix both of those. You can make the copper foiling in the middle and then frame that with lead, or do something like that too. So I think there's different varieties. You know, I'm still learning and playing with that, but the real difference is, I think, the way that it's going to look. You can tell the lines are a lot thicker with the lead, and the lines are slimmer, and I get not cleaner. Talking about cleaner, lead is very straight because you're using these lead strips, and you will just see that line in your work versus the copper foil, where you have to solder over all the lines. So if you don't have a good, if you're not good at soldering, those lines will be wobbly and it won't be smooth and straight or even. Then that will reflect on your project. But the lead will give you the straighter lines, except you'll see those joints come together. Where the joints come together, you have to solder those joints, and so you'll see those little points. Just preference, look, and again, how you go about making that project.
Cool. Great. Cindy said super explanation, and thank you. Looks like it cleared it up for her. So, yeah. So one thing I would like to suggest on, because I do Tiffany method mostly. So currently, now I have used lead on some of the borders, especially when I'm doing round pieces. So I like to use the lead U-cane on the outside edge for the border. But yeah, you're right. The piece does come out a lot lighter with the Tiffany method. I have lifted some fully leaded windows before, and wow, they are heavy in comparison. So yeah, I could see how that could be a lot more weight, meaning a lot more sturdier frame. I have used zinc framing also in some of my projects, some of my
nice.
Edges for some of the projects that I've done as well. So yeah, so great. And that was a great segue into soldering, which is our next step. Soldering tips, So I would say one tip that I have is, remember that glass at the beginning I said to practice on, that picture frame glass? Well, you can foil that glass too. And guess what? You can practice your solder on that glass as well. So that way you can start to learn how to solder straighter lines, solder curves, how to get joints put together. Because sometimes I know when I started out, joints were a problem for me because they would get really big and thick, and not really nice and smooth coming out. So I still get some of those thick joints as well still, but of course they've gotten better. And as you do more soldering, you get better as well. So what's your tip in when you're starting out with soldering?
Yeah, I think a lot of times you'll find yourself, staying at one spot for too long, maybe just because you didn't get enough solder in there, and you're like, I want to keep adding it into this joint and this line, and it's not as smooth as you want, so you're going over it again. Then you keep on trying again and adding more, and maybe trying to get it more smooth again. And now that part right there has heated up way too much. And so the best advice and what I found is that don't stay in that spot or any spot for too long. Just move on ahead, go to another point, go to another spot, flip it around, go to some different place, and let that side cool, let that work, just let it cool down, and then come back to it. And you don't want to risk the copper foiling lifting off. It's only tape. That's that adhesiveness, that tackiness on the tape. It's only going to stick there for so long until you heat that thing up so much it starts melting, and now that copper foil is lifting off the glass. And if you do it for too long, you'll actually have to remove that tape, and it's no longer usable. So you don't want to get to that point, because that's just extra work and headaches that you don't need for it. So just add a little bit at a time. Keep that temperature pretty low at first, just to understand your iron, see where it's at, see how it heats up. If you have an iron that has no temperature control, like a cheaper, more affordable one, then you have to remember that that's going to heat up as the longer that it sits. And so, you're thinking, oh, this is the temperature that I'm using it at, but now you've been sitting for an hour, and that's just going to be at the highest maximum temperature. So getting a temperature controlled one, best one I use is the Hako FX601. I always recommend that to everybody. It's the best iron for me. It's the easiest one to use, and you just dial it once, and that's it. Your temperature, it doesn't change. And now all you have to do is just move things around quickly, so you have that control and you don't burn anything.
Great. So, well, let's get to talking about you and your artwork. So what influenced you to start stained glass?
It's so weird, because I never was thinking, like, I was not looking for some art thing to do or a hobby. It wasn't like that. I wasn't searching for that. I randomly saw a hanging stained glass at a shop when I was walking by, and I saw that, really captured my attention, and I was looking at the glass, the shine, the colors, and whatever the heck was going on. And I wanted to figure out how that was done, how that artist, that person did it. And I had no idea how everything came together. I didn't think that the glass could be cut. I didn't know the soldering step was what was needed to put everything together. I just knew it looked really, really cool. And then I came home and went on YouTube and started doing my research, started watching videos, started figuring out what all the things that you need and just trying to piece everything together. And after that, I went out, bought all my stuff, got all my glass, as much as I thought I needed. And I decided to do a feather. For some reason, I thought I searched online too, and there were some stained glass feathers. And it just felt like it was like the project to do as a first project. And it didn't seem doable. I guess that's what it was. So started doing that, and I attempted my stained glass feather, and it worked out sloppily. It looked terrible, and solder lines are crappy, and everything is just the worst thing. But it came together, and the glass was cut, and you're super proud of it because you did it by yourself with your own hands. I learned how to cut glass. The glass broke kind of the way that I wanted to, and that was magical. Just even breaking glass is a weird thing. I still think it's magical, like it's some weird magic thing that, like, you think glass doesn't break. It's either in a solid form or it's either broken. That's all I see glass. Like, you don't shape it. You don't go, hey, I'm gonna make a circle out of this. Like, how does that work? I don't even know. But yeah, so that's I started, and that was it. It got me.
Ah, cool. So you said you've been doing it since what, about 2018? About how long you've been doing stained glass?
Yeah, it was probably about that summer. Yeah, it was that summer I started. I picked that up, and then a friend was having a wedding, and I decided to make a project for them, and I made the Triantra hanging with the feathers and everything, dream catcher, and they still have it. I look at it once in a while, and it actually looks okay. It's kind of raw and everything. They love it, but I can see all the mistakes in it.
Yeah,
but yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, I've done that with some old work too. My very first piece I actually made like a coaster, just a little square coaster that I put my glass on, and I actually still have it. I use it upstairs, in my living room, and I put my drink on it. But yeah, I mean, you could just see all the impurities and the mistakes and stuff like that.
Good project.
Yeah, it was a good first project, Yeah. Didn't you also make a box for like letters, or I remember you making some sort of as a wedding gift or something like that, a box of some sort?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's another one. That's another
box?
Wedding. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That one was cool. That I'm sure they probably liked that one to put the stuff in that people were cards or whatever that people were bringing in.
Right.
That was
so
cool.
That was like a wedding card box. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they said they would use it afterwards for turn it into a terrarium. So that was the idea.
Oh, cool.
You can use it in multiple ways. But yeah, that came out pretty good. That was all clear glass. Nothing fancy about it.
Yeah. So out of all the process methods, which one is your favorite?
My favorite for sure, the glass cutting hands down. Like I was mentioning how magical it feels breaking glass, and you have that control to shape the glass in the way that you want it to be. It's super cool. And like the sounds of everything. I love the zipping of the glass cutter going through that glass and the snaps. Some people hate it. They absolutely hate it. I get comments like, "What the heck is this stuff?" When you're just hearing those things that people get cringy about it. But
I'm
like
with you. I'm with you on that step. I actually like that step the best too.
Yeah.
Because I find it relaxing in a sense, because it's almost like a stress reliever. especially if you've had a bad day or something. You come home, you get to work on some glass, and you know, you just get to cut it, and you go, oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
What a relief! What a relief! You know. So instead of really going out and damaging something or getting stuff like that, you get to come home and just break some glass. So that's where I find it relaxing. For me, I really like the breaking and cutting of glass.
Yeah, that's your favorite too.
Yeah. So what has been your largest project so far?
Yeah, to date, the one that I just recently finished up was this beer panel that I made with the leaded stained glass work. So that is, I think it was 70 pieces, and that, you know, people do hundreds of pieces, and to me, 70 is a lot of pieces. I mean, it took a long time to get everything perfect, and since it was my first big commission, I really wanted it to be perfect, and so that was a 18-inch, 18 by 18 in size, and it's a big, just a frame, 18 by 18. But yeah, it's heavy. It's really heavy. Well, not really heavy. Sorry, it's just heavier than the rest of the stuff that I've done.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my best project, my biggest one right now.
So what has been your, I should say, is what part of the stained glass niche do you feel more comfortable in? You know, what is it and why? You know, so, you know, do you want to do advanced glass, or do you want to stay in the beginner's glass niche, or maybe expand to larger portions of stained glass to maybe more advanced type glass? Where do you feel comfortable in?
I mean, as of right now, I still think like beginner level. Everything that I do is still pretty much beginner. I feel anybody can get started and start doing the stuff that I'm doing, the project that I'm making. Even like getting back into, you know, after having finished that beer panel, now I'm going to try to make another copper foiling project. And it's like, man, I already forgot how to do it. So I have to learn again, like, what is this and how things come together and stuff. And I feel every time I get on this, it feels like I'm just starting fresh. I don't have it yet. I don't have, you know, anything down. It feels I'm not struggling as much, but every step, there's always something that I pick up. And so I want to share that and continue picking those things up and sharing that with people. But who knows? I mean, I just, you know, I'll try to make projects as I go along. And if I feel I can jump to a bigger one, I won't limit myself to that. I hope that people that watch it will also enjoy that learning process. If I jump into, you know, like a more bigger project, even this beer panel one, it's a big project, but everything breaks down into just that one single stained glass piece, right? That's all it is you're doing the cut. It's got multiple sides, whatever sides that you're cutting, and you've got one piece. And so now you do that again, and you got two, and you keep doing that. If you got 100, you keep doing it 100 times. So you have two, you're done. And then now you just put that together, and that's pretty much all it is. So if you can do one, you can do 100. It's just going to take you a couple months to do that. You know, your time, but yeah.
Well, great. Well, I appreciate you coming on to the show tonight and you know, gracing us with your knowledge and everything. One last thing is, what would be your final tip for somebody starting out in stained glass for the first time? What would be your kind of key tip that you would give them?
The biggest thing is, I think you have to want to do this and be a person that likes to discover and try new things. you have to really want to experiment. You have to know that it's not going to turn out as nice at first, but you know that you can improve on that next project, that next cut, whatever it is. So if you have that mindset, I think the mindset going into getting into this craft is that you will become better and you will learn. And if you want to be a person, if you are a person that wants to keep learning, this thing you'll just grow with it. And that's what I've gotten out of it. The best thing that I've done so far is get into stained glass and doing YouTube. Cause I'm learning both things, and just progressing and figuring things out along the way. So yeah, if you love what it looks like at the end, the craft and everything, give it a shot. But you'll probably have to be a very hands-on person that you want to try to make things yourself and not, give up or just say, or if you're not a person who, I think if you're not a person that doesn't like building, like IKEA furniture, some people just don't want to build furnitures like that. You'll you'll pay somebody to do it. And I don't think you'll get into stained glass because unless this is your thing and it's different. But I feel it's similar to that. If you're not a person who wants to get down into this, it's going to be a struggle.
Well, great. Well, great advice. Great advice. So, yeah, I found I actually got hooked after my very first project, and I was just hook, line, and sinker because I'm a DIY type person. I love doing and building things and putting things together. So it just kind of like it just hooked me and grabbed me and just yanked me fully into it. And I'm going to do this probably through my retirement, So, again, I appreciate it. You coming out tonight and sharing your knowledge with us and letting us get to know you as an artist and as a creator itself as well. So, with that, appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and make some final comments here. And you guys need to go check out his channel. It's Stained Glass DIY. The link's going to be down in the description below. Be sure to check out his channel. And also, I put a link down in there to all of his social media links. He's got a page set up that has all his links on it to all the different sites and his website and all those things. So be sure to check that out. And if you've enjoyed this stream and want to see more of those, be sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And if you really want to support the channel, be sure to check out the merch that we've got through SCOARTGLASS.com and our great folks at Press and Sew. And you can also buy me a coffee at the link in the description below. That also helps support the channel as well. And I do have some extras in there if you're interested. So you can check those out as well. With that, thank you all for joining us tonight. And we will see you next Friday at 8 p.m.